I was fortunate enough myself last year to binge watch it all in about a month and a half to 2 months. I know you've seen this before. What is this, like a second or third rewatch for you?
This is third, because I did one at the start of the pandemic and now I'm doing one toward the end of that pandemic. It's just a feel-good television. Easy to watch, feel-good television that makes me happy inside. God, this show is so good, isn't it? It's just such a good TV show.
So, I want to say, I remember even the first time watching it, I saw a very stark contrast between season 1 and basically everything afterwards. Is season 1 still, even on a second and a third viewing, does it still just kind of feel out of place?
Yeah, it's weird because it's not terrible. There's people who are like, no, it's the worst thing ever. 1, it's 6 episodes. You can watch it in 2 hours. And 2, it's really not awful, but it's nowhere near as good as the show would become. They do a very smart thing where they don't actually change the characters that much. They just kind of change the lens through which you view the characters. Where instead of seeing Leslie's over-eagerness and love of government as kind of an annoying trait in the first season, it's a trait you actually admire for the rest of the show. And she still has that in the first season. She's just very obnoxious about it, as opposed to later seasons where they know how to kind of level that off. But again, it's 6 episodes. You can watch it in 2 hours.
I think something the same thing was what happened with Michael Scott, right, in The Office, where they had the first series and they're like, we need people to actually like the main character of the show. And obviously similar writing teams involved, so there's similar course correction. I think probably inspired from what happened in The Office was taken with it.
And I think as well with that, I just feel like that first season of Parks and Rec, and now some of that might have been, I literally came off of binge watching The Office, and it was the first time I'd seen that as well, and jumped straight into Parks and Rec. And that first season of Parks and Rec, I don't know whether it was just my hangover from watching The Office, but it felt like this does feel just like a spin-off of The Office more than its own thing. And then, again, with the course correction and the way that they changed, the kind of the presentation of a bunch of characters, it then did feel like its own. It stepped out of the shadow of The Office, basically, I feel like, from season 2 onwards.
Yeah, I think there was very much, we're doing a series with many of the creators of The Office. We needed to feel like The Office so that the people that watch The Office will watch this too. But then they realized that doesn't really work for these people and these characters, so we do have to go somewhere different. People will tell you that it was when Rob Lowe and Adam Scott joined the show that it got good. And no, season 2 is actually really good. Fair enough, it does get better with Adam Scott and Rob Lowe, but season 2 is a really good season of TV. Because you have this cast, which is just an absurd group of human beings. Zeke said to me on Twitter, which I think is a great point. It's your favorite character after your first watch is never your favorite character after your second, because this show has such a deep bench of really, really funny characters. The Adam Scott, he has gone up so much in my opinion in this show and this rewatch. He's so good as the deadpan dry man, but also secret giant nerd that everything he does, every deadpan delivery, every look to the camera when little Sebastian shows up, it's perfect. He's so good. And then you get Nick Offerman, who everyone kind of gravitates toward the Ron Swanson libertarian side of the character. It's I hate government and I'm very cranky. But his physical comedy, every time that man just has to make a face, it's perfect. Never has a man been able to do so much with his face with just the slightest move of his mustache, and he is so good. I love the show so much. It's such a breath of fresh air anytime you need to feel somewhat happy. And I watched the season finale last night, and it is as close to perfect as an episode of television could possibly be. It's so satisfying.
Nick Offerman is just underrated generally as an actor, I think. He's very funny in Parks and Rec, but he can do pretty much anything. He's a very, very good character actor. I don't know who's the sort of guy that you'd want to lean on to take the direction of an entire movie, but just as somebody that exists within a universe, he's incredibly entertaining every time.
My only thing I'll disagree with is the bit about your favourite character changing depending on how many times you watch it, because I was pretty much, from the first time I saw him on screen, Jean-Ralphio was my favourite character.
He is the best. My favourite Jean-Ralphio recurring bit is every time he's shut down, he's no, good idea. No, you're right.
and the not so subtle reference in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was an automatic 3 stars for me. Ben Schwartz, the Jean-Ralphio, just a phenomenal character.
The relationship between him and Tom is
Mona Lisa Ralphio.
Yeah.
And like the deep bench of characters that the show has, which is very like Simpsons-esque, which like they don't really ever hang an episode on, say, a John Ralphio or a Perd Hapley, but they do have those like John Ralphio and Perd Hapley and all those characters that they can just drop in for 1 or 2 gags an episode, and that's all you need. That's all you need from like John Ralphio would be a very annoying lead character on a show. If he was a regular, it wouldn't really work. Whereas as a dude who can pop up and just sing a ridiculous lyric and be shut down immediately because he's a ridiculous goof who also understands he's a ridiculous goof, it's the perfect character. I love him.
And I think as well, like, one of the things I like about this show, and something that, you know, lets you know that you've got a really good show, is that not only do you have all of these characters that are like incredibly enjoyable to watch, but like each character has a specific and unique dynamic with another character. And I think that's always one of the best things. Like, I know, you know, Friends has been overplayed to death and whatnot, but one of the things I do enjoy about the show is that each of those characters, there's a different and unique dynamic between, say, like Joey and Phoebe to Joey and Chandler and whatnot. And it is a similar thing with like Parks and Rec, you know, like the way that April and Anne have this, well, it's a love-hate, but more of a hate-hate relationship with on April's side. But like it's a completely different dynamic between those two to what is with like April and Ron. But there's still all of these, even though this world is completely insane at times, there are still a whole bunch of, you know, grounded and relatable stories and arcs that these characters have. And I think I need to go now do a rewatch of it.
I would highly recommend it. It will make you feel very good inside.
You remember when we all like Chris Pratt?
Yeah, I was watching the show and he's so funny in this show. He is like the best. The network connectivity issues is one of the best single line reads in the history of television. And apparently he freaking ad-libbed it. It wasn't even a line read. He made it up.
I know. So
it does make me, because like, yeah, when you talk about the cast in this show and when you get down to where Chris Pratt's the 6th person we mentioned, we didn't even mention Aubrey Plaza, we didn't even mention Aziz Ansari. So like the bench is so deep on this show. Though I will say the Tom character, didn't care for him this time.
Why is that?
I think he just gets annoying. It's like there's so many times, and fair enough, part of it he's supposed to be annoying at times.
He is. Yeah, I was going to say he's meant to be annoying,
but like John Ralphio's meant to be annoying too, but he's funny. Whereas Tom, I don't know, there's just something about the dude being selfish, then learning a lesson. By the like 7th time, you're like, all right, we get it. He's just kind of stupid at this stage.
No, he's just a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And I think Aziz Ansari has always been very good at playing those slight obnoxious, dickish characters. Like, it's something that he has down really, really well. I don't really think you're meant to like Tom.
But I don't want to watch him on the show. Like, it's the Mark Brandanowitz problem, where it's like, as the show pivots toward being something else, his meanness at times just begins to feel out of place.
Yeah. Fair enough.
No,
I guess, but it's you have the light and shade though, don't you, of different characters. Some characters, because like I say, his relationship with John Ralphio I find very funny, but I take it you're attributing all of that to John Ralphio being funny and none of it to Tom.
The broader Tom universe of characters is much better than Tom, because you do get John Ralphio and Mona Lisa Ralphio introduced, and even Lucy, very good character, played by Natalie Morales. So everything around Tom is fine. It's just Tom at the center of it. No, thumbs down.
Yeah, but then, so I find Pierce really annoying in Community, but he's also funny, and the way the other characters act off, like bounce off him, are enjoyable. But would I want to spend any time with him or have any nice feeling towards him? Absolutely not, or none whatsoever. Do you not agree?
Yeah, but I also don't find Tom funny. Like, I do find Pierce funny, even if he's meant to be like obnoxious and rude and horrible. Whereas a lot of the time I don't find Tom funny, even when he's meant to be obnoxious and rude and horrible.
Fair play. Yeah, that is a problem.
I guess the thing with the show that you have to get through in the early stages is the fact that Louis C.K. pops up and is quite prominent for the first.
Annoyingly, he's good. It's so annoying. Like, he's good in the show, and then you have to watch him be good in the show, and you have to have that conflict of, it's like, oh, he does do that dry cop delivery really well, but also it's Louis C.K. and I have to look at his face. Ugh.
Yeah. Louis C.K. is brilliant. He's just an awful human being that I no longer want to interact with any of his stuff. And it was a great, nothing compared to what his victims had to go through, but it was quite painful, I would say, to completely detached from everything he'd ever done, because I think he was a brilliant comedian. His show is incredible. Whenever he'd been a guest on anything, it was really good. Even little bits and pieces he'd done and writing, like bits from the Dana Carvey show and stuff, it's just very funny. It's just, you know, some people are just monsters, and I'd rather know that he was a monster and not, you know, be passionately happy about his stuff than, you know. God, it seems to have happened a lot with comedians in the last few years, I would say, to me. People that I think are really, really funny and amazing. And I just want to clarify, I'm saying this in 2022, and I'm not talking about Ricky Gervais. I'm talking about the other famous comedian who's recently gone down a very unfortunate route of open transphobia. It just sucks when you get people that are super talented and then they turn into complete twats. But maybe they were twats all along, and we just didn't know.
I would like to shout out two other like non-problematic guest roles. Catherine Hahn as the political advisor, Jen Barkley, very good. Catherine Hahn's great and everything.
Yep.
And Paul Rudd's Bobby Newport Jr. is the best. Oh, Paul Rudd is so good. I love him.
He was perfectly cast for that role, you know. Like, it feels like a role that was written with him in mind.
Yeah.
When is Paul Rudd ever bad? Like, never. He's good in everything. It's terrifying. He can do pretty much everything. I love that guy.
Do you know what? I wish that we'd had more Andy Samberg on this, because I enjoy his fucking dumbass character on that as well.
I just rewatched Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I probably will. And actually, one thing that I was really happy about, Billy Eichner is fucking incredible, and I'm so happy that, like, for the first time I saw him, I was like, what the fuck? And I'm so happy that he became like a prominent feature for season 7. Yeah, he's great as well.
Another character
that
knew, like, just the right amount of, you know, or a character who is deliberately too much. That's the entire shtick of the character, that he is too much, and they know just the right amount of too much to put in the show.